Sorry, I'm just preparing the live stream, and then I'll begin to share the video. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna share the video now.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam.
There are so many things with which we have to struggle. This is called struggle for existence, even the modern scientists they call. It is not a very peaceful situation. The same question was raised by Sanatana Goswami, that why there should be struggle for existence? Why not easy life, peaceful life? Why some outer elements are giving us opposition? I want to be happy, but there is opposition. That is struggle for existence. This question should be there. Why? Even with a fly we have to fight. I am sitting without doing any harm to the fly. There is a tax. Bothers. So many. Even if you sit down without any offense, just like you are passing on the street, there is no offense, but from one house, all the dogs began to bark. Why you are coming here? Why you are coming? There is no cause of his barking, but because it is dog, his business is why you are coming. Why you are coming. Similarly, we have no freedom to go from one place to another at the present moment. There is immigration department. Why you are coming? Why you are? In many places we have been refused to enter. We have been refused from the airplane. No, you cannot enter. Go back. So I had to go back. So many disadvantages. So, padanga jada vipada, nothing. In this material world, you cannot live very peacefully. Not peacefully at all. There are so many impediments. The Shastra says, padanga jada vipada. Every state there is danger. Not only from these lower animals, but from the human society, by nature, on which we have no control. In this way, our life is not very happy in this material world, and we should be advanced in inquiring about it. So why there are so many impediments? That is human life. That is human life. So, how to inquire, how to become happy, what is the goal of life? Sanatana Goswami, not only Sanatana Goswami, he is representing us. We do not know. We do not know. So, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or by the mercy of the servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can be enlightened. That's what is the goal of life, why there is struggle for existence, why there is death. I do not want to die, why there is birth. I do not wish to enter into the mother's womb, and remain packed up condition for so many days. I do not want to become old man, but these things are enforced upon me. Therefore our business is, real business is, how to solve these questions. Not to arrange for economic development. Economic development, whatever we are destined, we shall get it. Either happiness or distress, we shall get it. It's like we don't try for distress, but it comes, it is enforced upon us. Similarly, the little happiness which we are destined to obtain, that will also come. That is Shastra's advice. Don't waste your time to get artificially some happiness. Whatever you are destined to get happiness, it will come automatically. How it will come? Jatha dukkham jasanatah. The same way, that you don't try for distress, but it comes upon you. Similarly, even if you don't try for happiness, whatever you are destined to do, so don't waste your time bothering about this so-called happiness and distress. Better engage your valuable time to understand what is the goal of life, why there are so many problems, why you have to struggle for existence. This is your life. This is Krishna consciousness movement, that we are inducing people to understand the problem. It is not a sectarian movement or so-called religious movement. It is educational, cultural movement. Every man has to understand the goal of life. Every man has to understand why there is struggle for existence. If there is any remedy, if there is any process where we can live very peacefully, without any disturbances, without any... These are the things to be learned in human life, and one should approach, just like Sanatana Goswami, he was minister, very educated, well placed, but he has approached Chaitanya. So we should approach the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his representative and surrender. But vidhi pranipati, the way is not challenging. Can you show me God? These are challenges, not this way. God is everywhere, but first of all, make your eyes to see God. Then you challenge, can you show me God? This attitude will not help us. Submission. Tadvidhi pranipati. No. This is the intention of this heart. If you want to understand this science, transcendental science, tadvidhi, try to understand it. But pranipati, very humbly, this way. Sanatana Goswami is submitting very humbly.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare.
Hari Paul. Okay, so I'm going to quickly share on, I need to cross post this, the Facebook Live, and then I'm going to invoke. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmaye Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nityananda Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayine Kalo Kalma Shana Shaya Janava Pataye Namo. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tushe Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Om Vrindai Tulasi Devyai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatya Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Dandavats. Thank you everyone so much for coming along. I'm so grateful to be back here again. It's only been 2 weeks since the last session, but it feels like actually so much longer. So much has happened in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I think that's relevant to what we're discussing tonight. We're discussing time, and sometimes the time between these sessions flies by very quickly. And this time it's taken a long time. Felt like it's taken a long time. And speaking of taking up time, I think we started a little bit late, so I don't want to take up too much time on the introduction. So yeah, I'm going to do a very brief introduction to the topic, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker, and then he's going to take it away. Okay, so I just wanted to just read this verse to start us off from Bhagavad Gita. It's chapter 11, text 32. And also, please forgive my Sanskrit in advance. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kalosmi Lokakshaya Krit Pravrado Lokan Samahartum Iha Pravrita Arte Pi Tvam Na Bhavisyanti Salve Ya Vastita Pratya Nikeshu Yoda. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, Time I am, destroyer of the worlds. And I have come to engage all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So I want to take two things from this verse. So firstly, we can see that Krishna is non-different from time, because he's saying, I am time. And secondly, he's also defining time as a very powerful reckoning force. So time, he says, I am time, destroyer of worlds. So basically time is He's representing time as this all-powerful destructive force. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that the supreme truth destroys everything, even Lord Brahma, even the creator of the universe is getting destroyed by time. So time is this incredibly powerful force. And yet it's also simultaneously, we're told that time is a gift that's given to us, a very precious gift. So how can we utilize this incredibly powerful force that's given to us as a gift? I think I want to start, I don't want to like start trying to answer that question, but I want to start off with that question, and hopefully over the course of this session we'll look at answers to that question amongst other questions. And speaking of questions, before I introduce Yasodanandana Prabhu, I'm just going to repost the link for submitting questions. So we've been getting a lot of good questions, but like I said last week, sometimes all the questions come towards the end and then we don't get a chance to answer all of those questions, whereas we would have got a chance to answer them before if they were submitted earlier. So I'm really encouraging all of you guys to submit your questions earlier rather than later. If you submit them earlier, they're more likely to get posted, to get answered. And we'll be asking them to our panel tonight. So we'll be asking Yasodananda Prabhu, Sriman Yasodananda Prabhu, Sriman and Srimati Madhuvrat and Saveshri Didi. I think, I'm not sure who else is here yet. I'll check as we go. But anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker, Sriman Yasodananda Prabhu. I'm not going to take too long on the introduction because I'm sure almost everyone on this call is familiar with who Yashoda is. So he is a disciple of Srila Gurudev for, I think, 25 years now. 25 years. He took initiation from Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in 1996. And he's been doing many different sevas. He helped fundraise for the Kirtan Hall in Govardhan, or donated, I think, maybe entirely alongside his former wife.
Navadweep and Govardhan.
Oh, Navadweep. Okay, sorry, Navadweep and Govardhan, right? Yeah. Okay, and is part of the Bhakti Trust team, or was. I don't fully understand how it works. He's also
Nor did we, Terry.
he's also very successful businessman, and I'm glad to call him, he's the Zoomacharya. I'm glad to call him a dear friend who has helped me so much in my spiritual life and helped engage me in a lot of service, has helped made programs such as this one possible. So without further ado, I'm going to let you get to it. So you have, I think, up to 30 minutes.
Thanks, Tarun. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
I have to say, when you say Zoomacharya, I feel like disappearing through the floorboards, but the only reason I don't is I might kill someone in the flat below. You missed out the goat herder, of course, which I have to say I didn't author. That was an unauthorized biography of me, but it made me laugh. It is actually true. I have been a goat herder, so just for the record.
Yeah.
Vanchikalpaturvascha, Kripasinduevacha, Patitanam Pavenabhyo, Vaishnavabhyo, Namamaha, Om Gyan Tinamadasya, Yanjana Salakaya Chakshamitam Yena Tashmai Shigure Maha Trina Rapi Sunichina Taro Rapi Sahishnuna Tamanina Manadena Kitni Sadahari Vachvigam Manashakrorvigam Jiva Vigam Gurapashtad Vigam Itam Vigam Yovisha Hetadira Savam Apimam Prativim Sashishyat Tatenukam Pam Susamik Shamano Bujane Vatmakitam Vipakam Hitvak Papubi Vididam Namaste Jivatayo Mukti Satayabak Anya Balasata Sunyam Gyan Kamadhyana Vritam Anukalenya Krishna Shilanam Bhakti Utma Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasdi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Offer my Dandavat Pranams to Radha and Krishna, to Nitai, to Gauranga, to the Parampara, to Gurudev. Offer my Dandavat Pranams to all the beautiful assembled devotees across the world. I'm very privileged to be able to speak about this subject. Time, inexorable. Time, unflinching. Time, relentless. Time, all-powerful. Time, bestowed. Time, eternal. Time, the most precise machine. Time, feared by the errant. Time, life. Time, death. Time, the bedrock of existence. The sine non qua, the axiom of axioms. Time, healing. Time, magical. Time, vessel of mercy. Time, embankments for the river of love. Time, our gift from God. Time, our enemy or our friend. Tonight, or this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are, I want to invite you on a journey of exploration. I don't want to be dogmatic or lay down some absolute truths or pretend I have some insights that you don't have, because we've all been swimming in time since time eternity. Rather, I want to explore in a curious way, with wonder in our eyes and in our hearts, like children. I want to explore this notion of time and the divine relationship, that we have with time, but as well as exploring the more esoteric and magical and divine aspects of time. I also want to explore how to make it very practical and very evidential in our daily lives. So both shooting for the stars while having our feet very much on the ground. There's no better place to start with the question of time than by referring to the Shastras. And as Tarun Krishna beautifully quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, the key statement for me is the first line and a half. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kalo Shmi, Bhagavad Gita 11:32, as he quoted, time I am. So Krishna is saying, I am time. So therefore, if we want a relationship with Krishna, it is logical, it is explicit in the Shastra, we must have a relationship with time. So you could say in the same way that we are therefore Krishna conscious. If Krishna is time, therefore we are time conscious. as well as Krishna conscious. That's hard to argue, given that it says in the Gita, I am time. There are many, many references in the Srimad Bhagavatam to time. In Canto 3, Chapter 5, verse 26, it says, from the unmanifested, then by the interaction of time, came about the Mahat Tattva, which is the complete of the supreme, the cosmic intelligence. This self of discernment, seated in the physical self, dispels the ignorance and makes the universe clearly visible. Without time, there is no existence for our soul to sojourn in this world. A few chapters later, in chapter 10, verse 12, it says, it is by means of time, kala, the hidden impersonal feature that the Lord separated from the supreme absolute, the material phenomenon that was established as the bewildering material potency of Vishnu. So by the means of time, time is fundamental to our existence. And I love this other verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 5, text 19. The so very sharp, revolving wheel of time governs all the world according to its own rule and measure. Of what use is it to endeavor in desire for results in this world when one does not know about the order of time? So I find it extraordinary, actually, that such a fundamental, such an axiomatic means it's the most reductive part of a philosophical exercise. It is the fundamental, it is the core, it is the kernel of a program. You could say at the core of our very universe, at the core of our existence, at the core of our being lies this concept of time. And yet in Krishna consciousness, I cannot actually recall in my 25 years of Krishna consciousness, listening to anyone from the Vyasa-san talking on the subject of time. That to me was quite a startling observation. So I'm going to throw this out to everybody right now. Quick question, and try and say it in a sentence. Either I'll let Tarun facilitate this, but I want you to answer this question. And it can be esoteric or it can be very practical. There's no limit to what you can say, but just say it in 1 or 2 sentences. What is your relationship with time?
Okay, if you're letting me facilitate, I want to invite everyone to put your answers in the chat so I can read them out.
So repeat the question, what is your relationship with time?
So yeah, if you want to take a minute to meditate, nice. To reflect.
Chara just said it, that's beautiful. 2 words she said it in, fantastic.
So I'm just gonna give, Yashoda, I'm just gonna give everyone like maybe 30 seconds. You can meditate peacefully on the question. What is your relationship with time? You can hear the bird song in the background that my mic is picking up. And then I'm going to start reading out some answers.
Some great answers.
Really nice answers. Okay, I'm going to start reading out answers. I'm not going to name everyone because I think there's a lot of answers. I want to try and read as many as possible. So someone's saying a struggle, strange, and then non-existent, then overwhelming. Whoever iPhone 8 Plus is, can you Can you tell me who you are? I'm curious. Is it Ramananda? I think it's
Yasodanandana,
Ramananda.
I think.
Okay. Okay. Motivator. Someone saying, feel like I have no relationship with time. She laughs at me. Someone else is saying a love-hate relationship. Wow, I can relate to that. Krishna Priya said, love to be relaxed with it, but then later feel like I'm running to catch up. Someone else is saying, feeling a lot is wasted. Yep, I can relate to that. Of the essence, warped, feel like there is never enough. That's a sign that you're using your time well, I think. She's parakia towards me. Okay. Nitai always with the receipt answers. Feel that I always need more time to catch up. 24 hours is never enough. A companion in the present moment. Undervalued. I like that final one. Nice one. Krishna Kripa Prabhu.
Beautiful.
Nice. And someone else is saying non-existent. Baffling. Relationship with time. Non-existent. Interesting. Okay. So if you want to put any more of your answers, keep putting them in the chat. But yeah. And then Yasodanandana Prabhu might read out some more. I don't know.
No, beautiful answers. Beautiful answers. Really great answers. Very honest answers. That's really nice. And very varied, actually. So the goal of this discussion is I want to attempt to kind of reframe our experience of time. I want to present time as our powerful tool, if you like, a magical weapon. It's Krishna, it is Krishna himself, so it's going to be full of magic. So I want to invite a complete re-look at our relationship with time. So for example, let me just give you an example of the importance of time. So I suspect, without prying into your personal lives, that most, if not all of us here have been at one time, we have fallen in love. And we'll remember that time we were either pursued or we were pursuing someone else, or we were both pursuing one another. And we make that date maybe before the romantic love has fully blossomed and everything's on the rising curve of ardent desire and love. And when you decide on your rendezvous, whether it's in a park or in an apartment or a walk or on a riverboat or wherever your romantic sojourn is going to be, if one of you turns up an hour late, what's going to happen? It's going to ruin the mood. It's going to kill it. Time is essential. Another example is when a sevak is truly serving his or her guru, it's not, the sevak is really concentrating on the needs of the guru. If the guru has some health issues and needs prasadam at 1 o'clock promptly, maybe a quarter-hour window, 1:45 to 1:15. However much you might want to embellish the prasadam and cook this and cook that, there's no point turning up with a prasadam at 3 o'clock. The prasadam needs to be at 1 o'clock. This is inherent to the seva. Another example is on a battlefield. I'm better at older battles than modern battles. I don't really understand all the equipment they use these days, but in the old days you had cavalry and foot soldiers and archers. If your cavalry turns up at the wrong time, it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 of the best horses in the world plus elephants. If they turn up an hour late, you're finished, you're dead. And perhaps my favorite example is Krishna. If Krishna himself so beautifully served as Arjuna's chariot driver, he was Arjuna's chariot driver at the Battle of Kurukshetra. If Krishna had turned up 3 hours late for the battle, we may never have the Bhagavad Gita. In all these examples, being on time is an existential part of our beingness. we think, oh, somehow we're consciousness, we're beings, therefore time doesn't apply to beingness. No, time is the vessel in which beingness can thrive. If we have no regard for time, our beingness kind of turns into an existential nothingness. That's how essential it is. It's a vessel that holds the beingness within us and allows us to fully express ourselves beautifully in whatever pastime it is that we're trying to be involved. And if you look at our calendar, if you look at the way we live, everything is based on time. We don't honor Ekadashi on Triyodashi. We don't break Ekadashi whenever we want to. Every time we do Ekadashi, we have a window of time to break Ekadashi. It's very, very specific. When we celebrate and worship the avatars, Nrsingadev, Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radharani, Krishna, we do it on a specific day. And we don't start honoring Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev. It's all very, very specific. It's all timed. Every appearance and disappearance day, our calendar is full of appearance and disappearance days where we're begging for the mercy of our acharyas, of our parampara on specific days. It's all very, very exact. And perhaps bringing it very close to home, your very karma that brought you into this world determined the exact moment that you were born. That's the basis upon which astrology functions. It's the imprint of your karma destining you to be born at a particular time and place on this planet. So you, if you like, in your very ontological DNA, have time imprinted in you on the basis of the time and place that you were born. So intrinsic is time in our existence. It's almost like, you know how Gurudev says, I'm closer to you than the air that you breathe. So we don't often take into account, we don't often think about air and breath. Some of us do pranayama, yes, so we'll be more conscious of breath. But time, I think, is even more of a subtle substance. Actually, factually, based on the Bhagavatam, it is more subtle than air. It is so subtle, we don't even fully appreciate and understand it and work with it. So I'd like you to take a moment, if everybody could just relax and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine, I want you to take yourself to an imaginary place in a great forest at the foot of a great mountain. And the mountain's like 50,000 feet high, higher than the Himalayas. And there's a great glacier. And this great glacier has melted. And from this melting of the glacier, this torrent of beautiful, pure water is cascading down the rocks. But the way the rocks are sculptured is that the water cascades down in quite a narrow waterfall. So that it then hits a circle. So if you stand in that circle, you can have that beautiful water baptizing you, rebirthing you, purifying you, cleansing you. But if you stand outside of that circle, the water doesn't hit you. So the waterfall is a metaphor for grace, for mercy. And the factual example of the grace that we are born into this world is that astronomically, we have all been born within 1/50th. That's 1/50th of the blink of the eye of Lord Brahma since the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Brahma has not even had the time to blink once since Mahaprabhu appeared on this planet. He's only 1/50th through a single blink. That is how close we are to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the grace that we can be the recipient of is factually, evidentially proven by just that calculation alone. But the circle that I'm talking about to receive that grace is the circle of time. And imagine that circle has 86,400 dots of that circle that you stand within. And what is that 86,400 dots? Anyone got any ideas what that represents? Send it in chat. Why 86,400? species of life. No, there are a few more of those. I think there are 8 million. Can't remember how many there are. 8 million. Can't remember the number. No, it's not that. Yes. Well done, Turan Krishna. It's seconds in a day. 60 times 60 times 12.
Times 24.
Times 24, yes. So it's the utilization of those seconds. And remember, we're all born equally every day. Nobody has more seconds than anyone else. This is the true equality in the world. Every day for every person has the same number of seconds. That cannot be disproven. So how do we take the gravity of the importance of time, the fundamental aspect of time, and start to really imbue it in our lives? Because what I'm saying to you is, I feel that, honestly speaking, I feel that Krishna consciousness has got infused with other cultures in its relationship with time. So the likes of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if you read his biography, he would turn up to a railway station 4 hours before his train because of his relationship with time. He didn't just wing it on a wing and a prayer and jump on with 2 minutes to spare. Madhavrat Prabhu traveled with Gurudev. I'm sure he's got some great stories of how Gurudev managed time. Gurudev was never in a hurry on anything, and yet Gurudev completed how many world tours from the age of 76? These acharyas have an immense relationship with time, and they are always on time, and they're always using their time with great, great effect. And I'd like to invite you to consider two of the most important words in Krishna consciousness. The first word is sadhu sangha, and the second word is sankirtan. And if you break down those two words, they both have the word san in it, which is actually, we might write it S-A-N, but I think it's actually S-A-M, mother, with a dot on the top of the M. And that sam means together. Sadhu sangha is we're coming together to relish Hari Katha. Sankirtan means we're coming together to sing the glories of the Lord in the street. What does together mean? It means together in time and space. Together doesn't mean, oh, I rock up when I want to. Together means we start and we end together. That's the power of time. I have an observation that I think that the extreme individualism that we, I would say enjoy, but I don't think it's enjoy, that we are in the illusion of in the West in particular, this extreme individualism, actually is a form of almost narcissism that takes us to a very nihilistic result. Because our individualism, this is proven in our experiences whenever we're discussing Leela in the transcendental world, is the individual nature of the soul is to serve. How can an individual feel special and unique as an individual unless it's in relation to the Lord and in relation to the Lord's devotees? I have no speciality if I just live on my own. If I just exist and live to my own whims, to my own desires, without any relationship to my fellow Jiva devotees and to Bhagwan and to Guru, how can my individualism, how can my sense of being an individual fully flourish? It can't, it will die. It will die if I'm just on my own. And time is an essential tool for bringing us together for cooperation. How many times do we hear Prabhupada, when he was disappearing, saying to his disciples, you will show your faith in me by how you cooperate. Gurudev was the same, he wrote a whole book on harmony. How do we harmonize? It's in relationship with time, in relationship with one another. It's not just our relationship with time, but it's our relationship with the teams that we're in, with the groups of people that we associate with, saying that I want to be part of a team. I'm just not a floating individual, just doing it on my own. Time helps cooperation. It makes us strong. And it makes us strong in our faith, but it also makes us strong in how we appear in the world. Because when we all do something together, we appear, like the other week, for example, we all assembled before 500,000 London, 500,000 people went marching in the street on all sorts of, all sorts of political matters. And we as devotees, we assembled together up to half an hour before that march as 65 devotees, like a battalion, and we marched chanting the Mahamantra into that crowd. And at one point you couldn't tell who was a devotee, who wasn't a devotee, because a lot of the non-devotees in the crowd were chanting because we were marched into them chanting. It was very, very powerful. But if everybody just turns up in the 500,000 crowd whenever we want to, not having any relationship with one another or time, then our energy, our power is totally dissipated, and we can't really perform the mission of Mahaprabhu. So time is a really powerful weapon for Mahaprabhu, for the mission. And also, when we commit to time, it's saying that my word means something. So for example, I remember in the last week, someone called me up and they said, oh, I want a meeting on something. And I kind of noticed that I didn't really want, I was feeling a bit lazy. I didn't want to have the meeting. So I said, yeah, send me a WhatsApp or something. We'll arrange a meeting. And I realized there was a kind of dishonesty in my speech, because I was avoiding, instead of saying, well, I'm not sure if I want a meeting, or instead of being honest, I was just prevaricating. And then I realized that's not a good way to operate here. So I just thought, okay, let's get our diaries out. We schedule a meeting, boom, it's in the diary. And I know I'll turn up for that diary meeting, because anything I put in my diary, I'll turn up for. So it's very important, because our relationship with time is also indicative of our relationship with our word. When we give our word, does our word mean something? Or is it just what we feel like at the time? And we can learn to love ourselves more and more if what we say we're going to do, we do, and we do it according to the time that we've said we're going to do it. This is all very powerful stuff. These are very small things, but they build up and they create great character. And they create great character within us, and they create great character as a team, small teams, large teams. The whole Sangha becomes powerful when we transform our relationship with our word, and our word to one another means something, and we commit to time. We are willing to be accountable for time, because it sends a very powerful message out. And the very powerful message is, I can count on you. When I'm serving with someone, and I know that that's a person, when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. If they say they're going to turn up for something, they turn up for it. It's a beautiful gift. It's a very small thing, but it means, like, I feel like, oh, my seva is so enhanced by that person's commitment to time, to their word, to commitment. It's a beautiful thing. It seems like a small thing, but it's a big thing, because it means I'm not alone in my seva. And let's face it, we're aspiring for Manjari Bhav. The Manjaris don't just do things whimsically. They're cooperating all the time. They're making arrangements for Radha to meet Krishna all the time, to stoke and intensify that love. They can't do that unless they're cooperating. And in this world, we can't cooperate unless we have a healthy relationship with time. Also, when we arrive for things in good time, I'm sure you've all experienced this. Instead of turning up 5 or 10 or 15 minutes late or half an hour late and either apologizing or just feeling disconnected, when we arrive 5 or 10 minutes early, our subtle body is in a completely different place. We're in the mode of goodness. Time is on our side. Time is our weapon. Time is our magical portal into the circle of grace, receiving that abundant river of pure water from the glacier that I was talking about earlier, because it helps us to be deeply present in this moment of time. The beautiful acronym for time is T, totally immersed in a moment of eternity, T-I-M-E, totally immersed in a moment of eternity. I believe that we can access moment by moment eternity by having a really mature and deep and gratitude-based relationship with time. Time is our magic, and we need to use it instead of being afraid of it or pretending, we can't manage it, or whatever our relationship is with time. No, time is on our side. Krishna wants us to be time masters, because then if we cooperate using time, if we're present using time, if we're deeply immersed using time, then we can preach more widely, we can preach more deeply, and we can feel our Krishna consciousness. Because this talk is not about being good. This talk is not about looking good. This talk is about using time as an act of love. Time is love. Being present and aware and using time properly is an act of love for your guru. It's an act of love for Krishna. It's an act of love of yourself. It's an act of love and deep respect for every other jiva. And it's an act of love for the propagation of Mahaprabhu's mission. So I want to propose, I said at the beginning that I wanted to explore with curiosity and wonder a journey of magic in relationship to the idea and the concept of time. But I also want to make it very practical. So I'm going to throw out just 4 very simple things that we can do to shift our relationship with time and also shift the Krishna conscious culture in relationship with time. And these are the 4 things. They're
You have
super
5
simple.
minutes, by the way.
What's that?
You have 5 minutes.
No problem. So the first one is be 5 or 10 minutes early for everything you do. Don't be on time, be early. 5 minutes. The second idea is plan your day the day before in 1 hour chunks. From when you wake up to when you go to sleep, in 1 hour chunks. Fully expecting it won't work out exactly like that, but you have a general roadmap. And within that schedule, allow for things to go wrong. If you think something, for me, if I think something's going to take an hour, I schedule an hour and a half. I mean, we all have our tendencies. I tend to underestimate how long something will take. So if I think it's going to take an hour, I make it an hour and a half. And crucially, make your schedule nice and exciting and full, but don't overfill it. Because otherwise you get back into the mode of passion. This is about being in the mode of goodness. It's about your subtle body being calm. It's about you being a recipient of grace. It's about you being present to the magic that Krishna and Gurudev can bring into your life through a good management, good relationship with time. If you try and do too much in a day, you're just rushing from one thing to another, you'll get into anxiety, you'll get into a mode of passion, and you won't be present to the magic. So just 4 things. Be 5 minutes early, plan your day the day before, not on the day before. Write it out in 1 hour chunks. Allow for things to go wrong and don't overfill your day. And particularly if you're traveling, always allow for things to go wrong, like, you know, parking my car. I can't find a car parking space. How much extra is that going to take? Yeah, little things like that, you know, plan it out. Because we're like an orchestra. If you think of how an orchestra works, they've all got to sit on their seats pretty much at the same time. The whole music is written so that the violins play at a particular time, the violas play at a particular time, the flutes come out at a particular time, the piano is played at a particular time. Everything is about time. And yet some orchestras, they can lift you up into almost a transcendental trance of music rapture. And it feels so perfect and beautiful and flowing. But that flow, that beautiful connection comes from timing and everybody working to a time and working together. Sankirtan, Sadhu Sangha together requires time and being accountable for time with one another. I feel that this is such a fundamental subject for Krishna consciousness. I feel that we have to get this right if the propagation of Mahaprabhu's mission is going to intensify. If we're going to be vehicles, if we're going to be flutes for Krishna's music to flow mellifluously into this world, as predicted in the Bhagavatam and in many Puranas, and Mahaprabhu's mission to have any chance of flowing through us, we have to get this relationship with time right. Not just as an individual, but in relationship to one another. I feel it's so fundamental to the development of our movement. That's why I wanted to speak about it tonight, and that's why I want to explore it in this beautiful forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yashoda, Prabhu. Thank you for taking your time to come and give this talk. For those of you who don't know, Yasodanandana Prabhu is a big Manchester United fan. And Manchester United, they're not quite as big a club as they used to be. So the Europa League final, which is happening tonight, is a very big occasion for them. But he's decided instead to sacrifice watching the Europa League final against Villarreal to come and speak on this topic that I know is very close to your heart. And I want to say personally, I want to express my gratitude to you for teaching me on a one-to-one basis some of these things that you've touched on, and these importance, the importance of time. So I wanted to reflect on two things that you said many valuable things, but two things. You said self-love, or I'm paraphrasing, self-love comes from good timekeeping. That, our self-worth, our value, our relationship with ourselves comes from good timekeeping. And when we started getting closer, my timekeeping was not very good at all, but you taught me to make that change, to be better with timekeeping. And like my mental health has improved, my conception of myself, but really my perception of the ability of what I can do, of what I can achieve, how I can be a vessel for parampara, or an extension of my Gurudev, because of better timekeeping. So I think this is really important, that timekeeping really, and even if it's like not going that far, timekeeping is good for mental health. If you stick to good timekeeping, your mental health will be better. Even if it's for things that you don't want to do, you feel uncomfortable for doing. If you set yourself times to do things and you stick to them, I guarantee you your mental health will be better. This helped my mental health so much. So this is so true. And the other thing is, timekeeping proves dependability. This is also so true. Like everything, or almost everything in this material world, maybe everything, is to do with relationships. I think everything. And if we demonstrate dependability through timekeeping in our relationships, we'll show ourselves as reliable. And this is important for anything we want to do, but one thing personally I found it important for is savor. So I think when you're talking about demonstrating dependability, I feel like maybe you didn't explicitly say savor, but I felt like you were feeling savor, because I've seen that people who do savor with you, who do things in good time, I've seen that you give them more savor. So I think this applies to us all. Like if we have savor and we do it in good time, more savor will come, because we treat that savor with the respect. We give our time and we dedicate that energy to doing it in good time. So yeah, there's so much more that could be reflected on from your talk, but I want to say thank you so much. I want to invite everyone to really think about if they have a question that they want to ask to Yasodanandana Prabhu, to Madhuvrat Sarveshwari, to, I think Yashashwini Didi is here as well. So if you want a question answered, any question to do with your spiritual life or to do with just conception of time, anything, just submit it. Like don't feel shy if it's not relevant. Don't worry, I won't ask it. So Yeah, it could be anything. You can write anything. I'm going to post the link again. We've got a couple of nice questions already, and I look forward to hearing the rest of your questions as well. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the first question I want to ask, and I think we're gonna get like this kind of question is gonna be a recurring theme. So it's from Charu Chandrika Didi. She said, when one lives in a temple, there is a set schedule for Mangala Arati, bhajans, class, seva, etc. But in one's home temple, then there is not the same strict schedule, and we get to choose our schedule to some degree, and never have enough time to do everything we would like to do in terms of seva, etc. So what would you recommend in terms of scheduling everything? Okay. I thought this was similar, but there's another question. What do you do if you never have enough time? I think it's slightly different. So maybe we'll tackle them separately. So the question is like living in a home life, how do you recommend scheduling everything so we can fit in all of like our commitments, but also fit in our service? So Yasodanandana, Prabhu,
Yeah,
you can start.
I'm a big fan of writing it down, because when you write it down, you see whether firstly you see whether you can see whether your expectations are realistic. So, like for example, it takes a certain amount of time to prepare boga, offer it to make prasadam and then relish the prasadam. That takes a certain amount of time. If you sidestep that and you don't schedule that in, then you could be scheduling a whole bunch of other stuff in that you just can't do because you've got to schedule that in as well. So firstly, I'd say write it all down and write it in hour blocks the night before, and then keep tweaking it and adjusting it until it feels right. Because also what you want to be doing needs to be in accordance with your goals. So we have, well, all of our life is spiritual, but some things are more internal, some things more external. So you may have a project that you want to do, like an external saver project, that takes a certain amount of time. You've got to schedule that in. But in terms of your sadhan, whether you're chanting 64 rounds or 32 rounds or 16 rounds, whatever you're doing, that takes a certain amount of time. You've got to schedule that in. And any other deity worship and any other type of any bhajans you want to do, that's all got to be scheduled in. And you look at that and you go, okay, have I got the balance right between my seva and my sadhan? Have I got the balance right between my deity worship, my sadhan, and my seva? And that's going to be specific to each person. But when you write it out, you can see it and you can say, okay, does that align with what my goals are in my life? Like Gurudev always taught us to be very clear about our goals. And if what we're doing during the day accords with our goals, we're going to be happy. But if we're doing things in the day that don't accord with our goals, or we don't know what our goals are, then we're going to be floating around a bit. There's another thing also, which is kind of implicit in Charu's question. Charu may not have meant to ask this, but it may be useful to other people, is make a promise. So for example, on Sankirtan, I say every week, assemble for 12 for a 12:30 start. Now, I don't actually turn up on time, actually, primarily for all the other devotees. That's secondary. I do it for all the other devotees, but primarily, I've made a promise to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And on one occasion, I'm normally there at about 12:15. On one occasion, it was 12:29, and I actually was in anxiety because I felt like I was going to break a promise to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I've made a promise to Mahaprabhu to be on time, whether I happen to be coming from North London, or whether I'm coming from Glastonbury, which is a 3-hour drive away. I've made a promise. And when you make a promise to Gurudev or to one of your Ishtadevs, that also makes it very powerful. That reference is not being at a temple, being on your own. So when you make that promise in your heart, that overcomes some of the problems about being on one's own or in a household situation.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask our next panelist. I'm just going to remind the speakers, just because we have a lack of time, to try and keep your answers to 2 minutes max, preferably 1 minute, but 2 minutes at the very most. Okay, so I'm going to ask Yashashwini Didi, Srimati Yashashwini Didi, if she'd like to add something.
The video. Okay. Haribol, Dandavat, Pranams to everyone. Yeah, I one time wrote to Srila Gurudev about this because I lived in the temple for a long time, many, many years. And when I was in householder life at first, I actually found it really, really frustrating that I couldn't just do the same that I used to do, especially after, you know, there was a child there and like that. And so I wrote and I told him how frustrated I was, and I didn't know what to do about it. And he said that in the household, it's impossible to do like you do in the temple, because in the temple, somebody's shopping, somebody's cooking, somebody's cleaning, somebody's doing the deities, whereas we have to do everything one after the other. It takes hours. So he said, most important is to get the mood. So what I understood from that was, according to our individuality and what sort of works for us, someone may do more japa, someone may do more singing, someone may do more deity worship, and you know, and just work it out what works for you like that, but to get that mood. So he said that was important, and he said later the timing will come back. So, you know, like that. So that was Srila Gurudev's answer. Yeah.
Haribol, Yashashwini.
Haribol.
Thank you. Okay, so if Madhuvrat and Salveshri, Divi, if either of you or both of you want to add anything, be happy to.
Hare Krishna. I was really thinking along the same lines as Yashashwini Didi and what she said, that you know, in the temple, because I've also lived in the temple, that everybody's doing so many different things that it can run on time. But you know, when it's just one or two of you, then it's very difficult. So I think what we do is you have to be realistic about, so don't set yourself a goal like I have to do 3 artis a day and 4 offerings and, you know, spend your whole day just running to catch up with your deities, you know, because this is unrealistic. And especially if you have to also work to make money, then you have to just be realistic about what you can achieve. So like what Yasoda Prabhu is saying, set yourself a schedule, but don't set yourself some crazy schedule that's going to completely fry you, because you have to set a realistic schedule. Maybe you make 1 offering a day and you do like a Mangalarti and whatever it is, but just set it up so that you can actually, it's achievable. And I think that's what Yasoda Prabhu was saying also. But I mean, I'm speaking from a position of, I haven't realized this at all. I have no realization of good timekeeping in household life. I'm like go with the flow and just do everything as it comes. And that's kind of, it's almost like the opposite of living in the temple. It's like fluid, you know. I cook when I cook, I serve the deities when I serve them, and that's my own thing though. It's not really, I'm not suggesting anybody else should do that. Did you want to say anything?
Haribol. So I was going to say that I once had material time to describe to me in this way, that on the material platform, we see time as completely linear. Even if we are looking at past lives, future lives, reincarnation, this type of thing, that again, we see it as linear. This was a past life. This is my future life. This is my life now. And that this linear view of time is very restrictive. We've created, or material time is a tight tunnel of minutes, then broken into hours, then broken into days, then weeks, then months, then years. It's very linear, but it's very restrictive and tight. But that is the way it is on the material platform. So to use that linear aspect of time, exactly like Yashoda was saying, of planning your day, of breaking that day into times. I've always broken my time into when I get up, when I have to get somewhere, when I'm at home, and during lockdown, this kind of period, it's been very much okay. Up until 12, it will be this. During the afternoon, it will be this. And I use this linear, quite tight aspect of time that is material time in that way, in a linear way, hour by hour, half a day by half a day, day by day. But I was also told that we cannot comprehend spiritual time, that if we are seeing this long, tight tunnel as material time, spiritual time is that we are the tiniest dot we can imagine within the hugest white expanse of space. And that is spiritual time, that is completely expansive, it's completely surrounding, it's not tight and linear, but we cannot comprehend it. And then you're going, you know, kind of quantum physics, all these other that are saying that all activities are happening at once, all things are happening at once. I don't know, but we are within this material platform and having to deal with material time, which is linear. And so use that as a tool to break the day, break your activities. And of course, we have our morning, lunchtime, and evening mantras that allow us to then connect to the spiritual during that period. And they just take us back, and then we're back in the material and getting on with our day and our activities and our service or whatever that is. But if we take those 3 points of the day to connect back to the spiritual.
Yeah, I remember you've told me before about that. Thinking about that meditation, that these 3 points in the day when we do our mantras, this is our moment to, you know, reflect back, remember these junctures of the day. So yeah, thank you for reminding me again. Just before we move on to the next question, I'm just going to call on Srimati Jagatam Didi. She also wanted to add a brief answer. Just a reminder to keep it maximum 2 minutes because we are short on time and we do have quite a few questions to answer. So yeah, take it away.
Thank you, Yasodanandana Prabhu, and thank you, Tarun Prabhu, and all the assembled devotees. Really, I have to say that this presentation, and I did come in late for it, but what I heard in the last maybe half an hour has been something which has deeply, deeply satisfied me, because I've always had this value around being on time. And when I took a course with Dear Govinda Prabhu, he spent some time speaking about integrity. And if you say something that you're going to do something and then you don't do it, or you say, yes, I'm coming at that time, and then you're not, that means you're not living according to your own integrity. And then the people that you speak to, they just lose respect for you, you know? And I live with that situation at the moment. So, and at the same time, when I came into Gurudev's Sangha, I was told that we don't necessarily follow everything according to schedule, but we follow according to mood. I was definitely told that. In other words, especially one person, God sister, she said, if you're singing some bhajans and one bhajan really takes your heart, then you go with that. And you might want to sing more bhajans in the same line, and which means you might go outside of your schedule. And so I also see that. I also value that. Another thing I'd like to say is I've been a stickler for being on time in my past. I think I was a smarta Brahmin in my last life. I'm sure I was. And this life, I'm meant to be learning flexibility. And another God sister of mine, while I was always making sure that I was on time, she was putting more emphasis on relationships within her own family, with her children, with her husband. And I noticed that the people in India do that. Like they say, oh, yes, yes, I'm coming. I'll be there at such and such a time. But if they run into someone that needs to spend their time or with them or wants to exchange or something, they place more importance on that relationship than they do on the material time. So for me, it's a little bit of a confusion, although I feel that, when we make a commitment to do something in a Sangha, I feel that it is important that we stay with that and on time. I really do. In our own personal schedules, that may be a different thing. And I love what you were saying earlier, Didi, about the 3 sandhyas. I think that is Sarveshwari Prabhu. That's really, thank you for saying that, because I've been struggling with keeping on time with those 3 sandhyas because of some illness and some back problem and stuff, and not being able to take a shower and stuff. But it's a very valuable tool. And although that is an aspect of Raganuga Bhakti or Rupanuga Bhakti, it's quite strict. That particular injunction is strict, that you stay, that's one of the injunctions of chanting your Gayatri mantras, is to say them during the Sandhya, as the sun rises, at the peak of the sun, and as the sun's going down. That's actually quite a strict injunction. So even though we're meant to be more spontaneous in our bhakti, at the same time, there are kind of strict injunctions. And I really like that point that you made. So what I'm saying, it seems a little bit of a confusion, and I see, 2 sides of this presentation. But I guess for me, it's, if you make a commitment in a particular seva, keep to it. But in my own personal life, there may be some flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your.
Can I just add to that second? I think that was such a brilliant point, Jagatam.
Which one?
Everything you just said was just brilliant. It was brilliant. And I don't think they're in conflict. I think what it means is you've got to go from integrity to deep integrity. And deep integrity means real self-honesty and asking yourself, am I doing this because I just want to do whimsically what I want to do? Or am I doing this because I'm serving my Gurudev? If it's the latter, and if the love is coming to serve your Gurudev, and you've got that level of self-honesty to evaluate and discern the difference where mood can take over a schedule, then you go for that. I think it's all part of the same discussion. I don't think they're opposites at all, but it requires a deep sense of honesty and not deluding oneself.
So integrity and deep integrity.
Yeah, you're going from integrity to deep integrity. Integrity is, I do X, I say X, I do X, whatever happens. Deep integrity means I might adjust that if I feel it's going to serve my Gurudev more profoundly.
Thank you, Prabhu. And sometimes I have to make a concession to rest for a while so that I can have some mood. and do
Yeah.
my service. Yeah.
Sure. I want to, before we go to our next question, I want to apologize to all the panelists for my incessant yawning. It's not because I don't find your answers interesting. It's because I've just started my new course, and I've been writing programming code all day, and I'm learning so much new stuff. So I'm actually really tired, and so but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying hearing everyone's answers. So when I'm tired, I just yawn like constantly.
I didn't even notice you were yawning until you told me.
I didn't notice it either.
Okay. I should have kept my mouth shut.
Well, you weren't. You couldn't because you were yawning.
Oh, I was wondering if I was thinking about that, and I was like, of course, Sriman Yasodanandana Prabhu is going to come through with the bad joke, with the dad joke. Anyway, so we don't have so much time, but we've got some beautiful questions, and I really want to try and get through as many of the good questions as possible. So I'm now going to further cut down the time. I'm going to say, if all the speakers could keep it to like 30 seconds, maximum 1 minute, but like really try to be 30 seconds. If you really feel in the heart that you want to say more, fine. But in general, to just keep it to 30 seconds. Okay, so the next question is, sorry, I'm just getting out my stopwatch. Thank you for waving your phone in front of the screen. Okay, I really like this question. I think it's quite funny, actually. What's your opinion on being fashionably late? Where do you think this concept arose from? If someone always shows up on time, or when they say they will, in my experience, that can sometimes create the sense of being taken for granted. What are your thoughts on this? I really like this question. I think it's quite funny, but it also kind of throws a curveball. So you should.
Can you ask what's it mean by who's taking who for granted? What does that mean?
I think what it means is that, you're always showing up on time for things, then other people might just take you for granted.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And Tarun, you used the phrase fashionably late.
Yeah.
It's a very English thing, and even American, that people think, oh yes, I've been invited to come to this dinner party at such and such time. But really the fashionable thing to do is to come late. Yeah.
For sure. Thank you for
Right, so what's happening,
clarifying. Okay, so do you want to answer first?
Sure, I'll set my stopwatch. So I've got 30 seconds, maximum 60, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the second half of the question first. It doesn't matter whether you're taken for granted or not, because your promises to your guru, to parampara, to Ishtadev, and they never take you for granted. So it matters not. Secondly, I would also always suggest in a group, you try and set the standards right at the beginning. So if you have a reading group, for example, you set the kind of agreed rules, because that way everybody knows where they stand. And when they don't keep their end of the bargain, you can very politely and nicely mention it, and you can resolve it. So you be explicit about it. The first part of the question about being fashionably late, for me, it's just nonsense.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Madhuvrat Prabhu, do you want to add something?
I will. I've noticed this with devotees, that they have this fashionably late thing, and there's this thing like, oh, devotees are always late, that I've heard so many times, because I think it just gives an image that, oh, I'm quite relaxed, and I'm not too sort of, to use a horrible word, anal about time. But actually, this is not how our senior Vaishnavas, gurus, acharyas behaved at all. And Srila Gurudev, when I was traveling with him, or when anybody went to any of his classes, he was always bang on time, if not, like Shodas Prabhu was saying, 10 minutes early. And I saw Gurudev get quite like transcendentally irritated by certain people arriving late. Even one person was dubbed Late Maharaj, became his permanent name. And so, yeah, I think it's, you know, that's worrying about what other people think of you. Oh, I'll be a bit late so people don't think I'm this or that. So, you know, give that up and just do it. Arrive on time for Gurudev if you're sincere about wanting to, you know, become a devotee. I think that's, don't worry about what other people are thinking.
Beautiful. Okay, Salvestri, Didi, if you want to add anything, you have 60 seconds
A
max.
really quick one, that I did work in fashion for years. So I was in that fashion world, and fashionably late was never appreciated. It just cheesed everybody off. And to the extent where eventually the person would just get ignored and we'd just get on with whatever we'd got to get on with, because they were always going to be late. We couldn't rely on them. So I don't know where fashionably late came from, but it's this sort of super relaxed attitude, like Madhu was saying.
It's part of an image, isn't it?
Of this image, you know, that, yeah, super relaxed. But actually, when you have something to do, it's not appreciated at all, even in fashion.
Thank you. Jagatam, Didi, do you want to add anything very briefly, or?
Not really, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, all right, well. And Yashashwini, Didi, do you want to add anything? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. So yeah, thank you for those answers. I just wanted, I wanted to add personally, everyone seems to have a negative opinion on being fashionably late. And I want to add an alternative perspective.
Me too.
Okay, no, you go first. You go first.
Sorry, it just took me ages to find the buttons to get there.
Oh, I'm glad you did find them.
It took me a while. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's really important also to find out why devotees are late. You know, I'm just thinking about like Harinam, maybe sometimes maybe some devotees can't come at that time and they regularly will come late, but at least they want to come and join in. You know, maybe somebody's a little sick that week, or they can't get a lift, or there might be so many reasons. And also people might be going through things in their life that I saw with myself for many, many years. I was too busy, and that too much busyness made my life very unbalanced. And so I was always trying to, you know, so much savor, but it was always rush, can't do anything properly. And then that becomes counterproductive. And I remember at the beginning, Yasodanandana said time can be relentless and time can be healing, magical, and a vessel of mercy. So I was seeing that those two sides can come. And especially if people are busy, maybe with family, or they might have family commitments or things that happen that they're not expecting. And the tendency is we can actually lose the reality of what we're doing, and we're just trying to fit everything in frantically, but we're not connecting anymore inside. And so then everything goes a bit, you know, pear-shaped. And recently I was on my way to a program, and I was late. And I was looking at the sat nav, and I was looking at the traffic, and I was going, I caught up a minute there. Oh, I lost a minute here. I was in such anxiety. And then it suddenly struck me that, well, hang on a minute. I don't have to be in that place. That's not the only place I can be Krishna conscious and peaceful. Right now in the car, I can accept this is what's happening. Krishna's here. I'm a person. I'm trying my best. And I suddenly became so peaceful. And since that time, I've actually applied that in many areas in my life, that the material world teaches us very much to be goal orientated. You can only be happy if you get a certain thing or you're in a certain place. And I think we just have to get that balance as devotees, that it's not we can only be happy and only be fully correct in certain ways. So I do think it's important to be on time, but I think there also may be many, many reasons why people may not just be specifically on time. And I think that's really important, especially devotional service is such a deep thing. We're trying to cleanse our hearts, get rid of all impersonalism, so much deep things to really relate to the Lord. And I think we have to remember that's what the essence is. We want to have our hearts peaceful also, so we relate into the Lord. And that's what we've got to remember is the goal, not just got to be like this, got to be like that. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be on time. We should really try to be. But I think it's so important to actually facilitate other people's needs as well. So.
Haribol, thank you. Yes, I wanted to, just to provide a counter perspective. So Janardhan Prabhu very helpfully put a definition of fashionably late. So it's deliberately arriving after an event has started, especially in order to prove one's social status. I arrived at the party, I'm emphasizing the word party, fashionably late. So what is like, okay, so number one, it's deliberate. So it's not turning up like to a Harinam like 1 hour, 2 hours late because you took too long in the shower. And that's not a dig at, anyone more than myself, because I have problems with timekeeping. But it's number one, it's deliberate. And number two, it's with an intention. What is your intention for turning up to this event after it has started? So what point are you trying to make? So in this, it says, especially in order to prove one's social status. So why are we trying to prove our social status? So we have to ask ourselves these questions. So this is to do with our relationship with time. Maybe in time, in according to time, place, and circumstance, which, is the lens as devotees, we consider a lot of our actions, it is relevant. If you're going to a place, where someone is there and you want to make a connection with that person, but you don't want to stay in that place too long, or you don't want to be in that place, or you just want to be in that place at a certain time, then it's good to arrive fashionably late. Personally, sometimes I'm associating with my friends from before Krishna consciousness. I have a lot of friends who aren't devotees, and they want to see me, and they want to see me in situations that I maybe deem aren't entirely favorable to my Krishna consciousness if I'm there for too long. So personally, I do show up late to these situations so that I maximize my time and don't get distracted, don't get so absorbed. So, but I think in general, we can't hide behind this fashionably late thing. And I think that earlier point that Sriman Yasodanandana Prabhu made, which is that don't worry about being taken for granted. Don't be time conscientious for the person you're showing up for primarily. Be time conscientious for Guru Parampara primarily, because that's how we operate through this material world. Okay, we're going to move on.
I'd just like to add something, actually, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Go on.
It's a definition of fashionably late, which I've never heard that definition before. But the definition of fashionably late is to turn up somewhere to demonstrate your social status. Then clearly that's not devotional, because we're not interested in proving our status to anyone, whether they be devotees or not devotees. So on that based on that definition, fashionably late has no place in a devotee's heart. With regard to what Yashashni said, I think I would sum her whole statement up as making sure that we don't lose compassion in the process of improving our relationship with time. And I wholeheartedly think that's a very important point, because it's important to have compassion for others, and compassion for others starts with compassion for ourselves. So we just do the best we can, and we set the right and the good intentions, but we always have to have compassion. At the same time, and this is where I want to finish off with this question now, we've got to be very aware of how subtly and how much we get into codependent relationships with others and in groups in order to belong. So if the culture of a group is to be kind of cool with time, and yeah, whenever you want to, you turn up, if that's kind of the culture of the group, you don't want to stick out. You don't want to be the different person. You don't want to make that other person feel uncomfortable by being on time. That's happening a lot in the Krishna consciousness community, where, listen, if you don't make me, it's kind of an unwritten deal. If you don't make me too accountable, I won't make you too accountable. And it's all very floppy and flippy. And that's going on a lot in the Krishna. We need to recognize the code. I'm not saying everyone and everywhere, but there's a lot of it. There's a lot of codependent flippy floppiness, making everybody feel very easy and comfortable with the lowest common denominator. This is what I think we need to upgrade. And I think that's what Gurudev wants.
Thank you. Thank you for your very concise, strong answer. Yeah. Okay. So we don't have so much time, but there's two questions that I really want to answer. And they're very nice questions. But I'm gonna ask everyone to try to answer these questions in 2 sentences, but brief sentences, not like extended long sentences. So I'm really gonna ask you like 2 concise sentences. Can be 1 sentence as well. I won't hold it against you if it's just 1 sentence. But yeah, so I'm gonna give you a moment to like consider these questions and answer them. So the first question is, what do you do if you never have enough time? So Yasodanandana Prabhu, I'm going to ask you first. What do you do if you never have enough time?
Krishna, by his causeless mercy, gives us all enough time. We just need to find it.
Madhura Prabhu.
I would say that everyone has enough time. It's just that we're trying to pack too much into it, so therefore we think we don't have enough, but actually there is enough.
So it's about prioritizing. So Rashri, do you want to add anything or no?
Yeah, that's fine. Just
okay.
What's been said.
Okay. Jagatam Didi, do you want to add any 1 or 2 sentences? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So I think that you mentioned also that your timing depends on your Krishna consciousness, basically.
Beautiful. Okay. Yashashwini Didi, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that time for what? Because we're trying to be Krishna conscious. Even if you've got children and you're washing up and you're vacuuming the floor. I remember Srila Gurudev telling the Nandini one time, she said, I've got no time, I'm decorating the house. He said, you're painting the walls, you're decorating the sides of the Kunj for Radharani. So it's a matter of consciousness. We may not go that deep, but we want to connect with the fact that we're doing everything for Guru and for the Lord in this way.
Beautiful.
So one may have children and just be fully busy, but if we can connect that to Krishna consciousness, you know, because we're here living on this planet, there's another planet there that we're going to go to. It's a real place. And they can see us all the time, and Guru can see us. So all we're trying to do is make that connection. It's not that we have to do a certain activity in order for it to be there. And I think that's something that's really important to accept, that it's more a mind thing. So if we are actually stuck with seemingly material jobs, we can actually connect on that level, I think. That's important.
Thank you, Yashashwini Didi. Whenever you start talking, I never want you to stop. But also the rule is got to be 2 sentences. So I'm telling you off. I'm telling you you have to keep it to 2 sentences next time. Otherwise, I'm putting you in the sin bin.
Oh, I love you telling me. That's fine.
Okay. I don't know. I think I'll get in trouble with KK if I tell you off.
He tells me off as well.
Okay. That's his job, not mine. I'll ask him to tell you off. I won't tell you off. I'll ask him to tell you off. Okay, so yes, Charu Chandrika Didi, you asked if you'd like to add something. You can add something, but 2 sentences. 2 sentences. It's a rule for all of you.
It's very difficult, but I'll try. No, I was just thinking that, you know, there was one time when Srila Prabhupada asked all his devotees who are on the book publishing team to do Chaitanya Charitamrita in, I think it was 2 weeks or something crazy, I don't know, but anyway. But I was thinking that I guess they were so like dependent on Krishna and dependent on their Gurudev's mercy that at that time that seemed like impossible to fit everything, you know, to do 17 volumes in that time. It seemed impossible, but they managed because of mercy. So I feel when I can't fit everything, I just cry. I was like, please, Gurudev, please. You know, that mood of dependency on Guru Krishna for that time.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for adding that, and thank you for being very succinct. Okay, so we have time for just one more question, and it's a beautiful question from a beautiful devotee who's anonymous to everyone but me, as he asked to be. I just narrowed it down by 50%. You won't guess who he is. Anyway, how do we leave room for Krishna's plan in our daily life when we are scheduling our day?
Beautiful.
Okay, Yasodanandana Prabhu, if you want to begin when you're ready.
Yeah, it's 3 things. What Yashashwini said about being Krishna conscious is what Charu said about being a recipient of mercy. And it's about what I said about being practical, which means not overscheduling your day, leaving the gaps in your day so that the magic can occur.
Thank you. Okay, just to repeat that question, how do we leave room for Krishna's plan in our daily life when we are scheduling our day? Madhuvrat Prabhu, if you want to add something.
I think that goes back to intention, because and meditation. So as we're performing our day-to-day activities with the intention to please Gurudev and please Krishna, and we're trying to constantly meditate on that, which is really what Krishna consciousness is, then that magic automatically comes in. Whereas if we're, you know, the opposite is true. I don't want to speak too many sentences and get told off.
I wouldn't tell you off either. I'll just ask Sarveshri to do it for me. Sarveshri, do you want to add anything?
I think it is about the intention. So my goal is that my intention is that everything I'm doing, I am doing to please Gurudev and Radharani. So, but I'm not there. But I try to remind myself throughout the day that that is my intention. So when I'm lost in doing something, I try to pull it back to exactly what Yashashwini said, that how is this for Krishna or the devotees or for Gurudev, and just remind myself of that.
Thank you. Jagatam Didi, would you like to add anything? Just a reminder for everyone, how do we leave room for Krishna's plan in our daily life when we are scheduling our day?
Yes, it's kind of in line with what Sarveshwari Didi said, that I am, who am I? I mean, I'm an individual and I'm an eternal servant of Radha and Krishna. So whatever I'm doing, whatever decisions I'm making has to have some connection to Krishna's, Radha's ultimate plan.
Sure.
Okay. Yashashwini Didi, if you promise that you'll keep it to 2 sentences, you
I'm
can add
going
something.
to keep doing
You have
Try
to
to
keep
do.
it to 2 sentences because I think it's all that your internet will be able to handle at this moment.
Be flexible. Even in material life, if something comes to change it, some plan, you know, that you're not expecting, you just be flexible if you have to deal with it. So that's it.
Haribol. Flexibility. I like that. Okay. I think that is all I have time. We have time for. So before we close up, I want to thank everyone.
Before you thank, can I make a couple of announcements?
I was gonna ask you for announcements after I've thanked.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen, please.
So yeah. In fact, I'm gonna end the recording and then you. Oh wait, no, we'll have the recording. We'll have the announcements in the recording. Okay. So yeah, I just want to thank Yasodanandana Prabhu for coming and giving this talk and missing the football. It's 1-1. You have 20 minutes left. You can catch the end of your this game and see if your team is going to achieve European glory, albeit in the second best European Cup, not the Champions League. We'll have to leave that to your bitter rivals, Manchester City. I'd like to thank the whole, thank you so much.
Thank you. Shake your head, just got a clue what you're talking about.
I'd like to, so thank you so much for coming and giving this beautiful talk. Thank you for making Holistic Bhakti possible. I'd like to thank all the panelists for coming along and giving beautiful answers and making this format possible. It's such a wonderful format. I know so many people have personally messaged me and say, we love the format. We love hearing from all of these different devotees, their perspective. So really encourage you to come along and give your responses, our responses, your different perspectives, your different realizations, and the different things you've heard from the different acharyas that you have associated with. So I'm really grateful. And I want to say again, when we had a few different intentions when we set this up, one of mine was that we should hear from that the younger devotees are able to hear from the devotees who have had more experience in Krishna consciousness, and be able to ask the general questions that we would have been able to ask in person, but that we're not necessarily able to ask at the moment due to the pandemic. And I think the result is that we're able to ask even more of these questions now than beforehand. So I'm really grateful for all of you coming along. Thank you so much. I want to, there's so many people to thank, but I don't think we have time. But I also want to thank my young god uncle. I say young, yeah, young for an uncle. He is older than me. Sriman Janardhan Prabhu. I don't know if you noticed, but maybe 2-3 months ago, the posters for Holistic Bhakti suddenly like went up 5 levels and have slowly increased as well. And that is all down to the seva in the background from Janardhan Prabhu. He's very dutiful in the seva. He just gets on with it and like produces these most beautiful posters and really makes it very inviting to come along. And yeah, it's such a special seva. So I feel very grateful, and I feel very grateful as well to be able to work with you, Janardhan Prabhu. It's such a pleasure. It's honestly such a pleasure. I'm very glad that Krishna has arranged that it's you who I'm working with on this part. So I'm going to, before I invoke out, I'm going to hand over to Yasodanandana Prabhu for any relevant announcements.
Yeah, Tarun, great emceeing. I love your ebullience, your enthusiasm. You're like a beautiful cowherd boy. And I never know what you're going to say next, which makes it fun. Literally, no idea what you're going to say next. Could be anything. I'm sometimes stretching my legs and sometimes curling my toes, and it could be in any order. It's like I never know what's going to happen. It's wonderful. I love it.
I never know what I'm going to say next. It just suddenly it's there, and I'm like, should I have said that? Should I not have said that? But the show goes on.
Also, I just wanted to, sorry if I'm going to embarrass you both, but I just wanted to honor Jagatam Didi and Yashashri Didi, because for me, they're like our London talisman. They're Prabhupada disciples. I always feel incredible indebtedness to Prabhupada disciples who've spilt their blood and tears over many years. I feel like I always refer to ourselves as the Trustafarians. We're inheritors of the wealth they helped create with Srila Prabhupada, and they still come out on, not just still come out, I mean, with enthusiasm and in a leadership capacity on Sankirtan every week. It's just amazing. And I'm really grateful to have their love and association and blessings. It's really special. So thanks to both of you. And you always come up with great stuff. So I just want to honor you both because my heart felt like doing it. And sorry if I've embarrassed you. So the first announcement, I'll try and do each one in, well, maybe not 2 sentences, but as succinctly as I can. The first announcement I'd like to make is to remind everybody that on July the 11th, 2021, no, it's not the day that the aliens will have landed. It is the day of the Ratha Yatra in India in Jagannath Puri, and it's the first World Sankirtan Day, also known as the International Day of Joy for non-devotees. It's totally non-sectarian. We don't care whether you are a Gurudev disciple, whether you're an ISKCON disciple. We don't even care if you're a human being. If you want to dance and sing with us, you're welcome anywhere in the world. Our goal is to have 108 Sankirtans all over the world on the same day, live streaming on the website, World Sankirtan Day. And we already have 38 cities signed up, right, Shamasundari? I think 38 cities signed up already on every continent. So we're on our way to 108. So if you want to organize a Sankirtan in your local city or town, Shamasundari will post the URL on the Zoom chat now. It's very easy, actually. It's www.worldsankirtanday.com. Or if you know someone else that you'd like, if you're not a Sankirtan organizer, but you know someone who is, you can get in touch with them and they can register on the site and we'll be in touch. So that's the first really exciting announcement, which I'm sure you probably all heard of, but we really want your participation. We need your help. We need your help. We need your love and support. And the second announcement is www.harikatha.com is now live. It is a monumental effort led by Lavanga Mandari in Braj. 600 devotees have been involved in this seva, of which of the 600, there are probably about 80 really intensely involved. It's been a monumental effort of piecing together, we're calling it Saving Our Vani Treasure. It's all of the lectures Srila Gurudev gave and getting them to top sound quality and then putting them online with a search function. It is an incredible, incredible task. And we're actually going to hold a show in the next 2 weeks where we're going to have a talk show inviting all the major participants to come and share their experiences, their tears and joys, but also most importantly, the realizations and the visitations they've had from Srila Gurudev in embarking on this seva. And for any of us, some of you will make it back to Goloka Vrindavan maybe in this lifetime, but if you're coming back to this world, this saving the Vani treasure is very important, because in your next life, you're going to have access to this database. It's going to be there for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Gurudev's lectures are going to be indelibly and continually able to be accessed from anywhere in the world with an incredible search function. That's 11,500 lectures. It's quite extraordinary. And the first 1,500 are up online now. So that's www.harikatha.com. And you can relish it and participate by going on the site, but you can also donate and help the effort as well. So those are the two announcements. And I think the show is over. I think we can unmute and let the chaos ensue.
Wait.
Oh, what?
I'm just going to invoke out.
Good
Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu vaevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Haribol.
Jai Nityananda.
Jai.
Can I just ask, is there something special with this Saturday?